Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Gene Bailey. Glad you're here. Listen, you know what to do. Every week I say this, go share this on all your social media, all your big tech feeds, as well as Getter and Telegram and all those other ones that are standing up to big tech. Frank Speech, welcome, Frank Speech viewers. Glad you're here watching us tonight. Let's talk about something. We're going to talk about a topic tonight. We're going to start off, and I want you to just give you a warning. We're going to talk about what's going on with your children. So if there's little ones in the room, you may want to ask them to step out, find them something to do. But let's talk about parents. Parents, including Christian parents, no longer raise their children anymore. Rather, culture does, mostly through the internet. As a nation, we've submitted our minds to electronic devices that now shape our thinking and provide endless entertainment. In 2004, Pew Research poll showed that 60% of Americans were opposed to same-sex marriage. Now, today, those numbers have flipped, with only 40% of Americans being opposed. Why the change? Well, something was introduced in 2004, the iPhone, and that's not all. Social media apps Facebook and Twitter were rolled out. Google bought YouTube and launched their Android operating system. Why, I don't know. Amazon released their Kindle e-reader. And there were now more than 1 billion people accessing the internet. Thus, technology facilitated cultural change more quickly than any of us could have ever imagined. Now the cell phone in a teenager's hand is doing more to shape their worldview than an hour of Sunday school or through the guidance of their parents. In a big way, we failed to pass our faith on to the next generation. They're captives to the culture, social media, their peers, and as we've seen lately, the indoctrination by the public schools. Parents clothe their children, feed them, send them to school, but the hearts of many kids are being stolen and molded by a world that many of us don't understand, but not everyone. Parents are bewildered when their children come home from school saying they believe they're not the gender they were assigned at birth. And according to today's culture, you are whatever you feel you are. Some children go by a different gender at school than they do at home. And if you think this isn't happening in Christian families, well, you're living in a bubble that is becoming increasingly smaller every single day. More and more children are coming home and telling their parents that they're gay or they're transgender. Perhaps nowhere do we see the work of Satan in America as clearly as we do as in the sexualization of our children. It's destroying their identity, confusing their gender, and creating unresolved guilt and self-hatred. Jesus said, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." That's Matthew 18, 5 and 6. This chapter, perhaps more than any other in this book, touches the heart of Jesus. As for Nazi Germany, Hitler said, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." We're seeing that. And through laws and coercion, the education of America's youth is being taken out of the hands of parents and placed in the hands of secular educators, but not everyone. Using education to change the worldview of children has always been the goal of cultural Marxism. Among the measures the American Soviet government would adopt to further the Cultural Revolution are the following. The schools, colleges, universities would be coordinated and grouped under, listen to this, the National Department of Education. Remember that term. The studies would be revolutionized, being cleansed of religious, patriotic, and other features of the bourgeois ideology. Note carefully, the National Department of Education, not the parents, would set the agenda and determine what's being taught. The goal? To cleanse our schools of religious and patriotic influence. And the best way to do that is through sex education classes. The sensitive issue of sexuality and gender can be the gateway to all the other equality issues of all who reside in the state. Is this sounding familiar to you yet? And it will all be sold under the banner of a noble cause. Without the consent of parents, the comprehensive sexuality education curriculum is already introduced and in many schools. The curriculum was created by Planned Parenthood and Sexual Information and Education Council of the United States. Have you even heard of this group? This is why you hear me say, get involved in your local school board. We've got a job to do. Finally, in Martin Luther's day, schools were under the control of the Christian culture. But even back then, Luther feared for the children. He said this, I am much afraid that the universities will prove to be the great gates of hell unless they diligently labor in explaining the Holy Scriptures and engraving them in the hearts of the youth. So now, as we get into today's program, ladies and gentlemen, this does not have to be the answer in your family. You don't have to take what the world says is the way it has to be. You don't have to buy into this ideology. That is the way the world is going. And so many times we need to just open our eyes to see what's really happening in front of us. Well, let me introduce my first guest. Alex Brusewitz is a co-founder, CEO of X Strategies, develops PR, communication strategies for businesses, public figures, campaigns. If you haven't connected with him yet on Twitter or Instagram, you should definitely check out one of the leading conservative voices of the next generation. Alex, welcome to Flashpoint. Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Gene.
You know, Alex, let me just give you that first question since you're the new guy here tonight. When we see our kids, you're of the younger generation than mine. Do you see this, or what are we looking at with our nation and our nation's children?
Yeah, I just turned 25, celebrated my birthday just a few days ago. And so I am part of this generation, but I have my mom to thank for a lot of my upbringing. My mom was a big critic of the public school system growing up, and I was a product of the public school system, but she would go to my parent-teachers conferences, and she would give it to my teachers if they were being rude to me, and she would hold them accountable. And I think my mom was very rare in that regard, because a lot of parents for many years, they were just asleep at the wheel, and now the parents are waking up. They're seeing what the heck's being taught in the schools, and they're absolutely disgusted by it. And it's important that we continue to raise awareness about it and get the parents fired up and get the parents to show up at school board meetings and say, hey, look, my kids shouldn't be learning about sexual preferences from K through 12. They should be learning about math and science and English and things that are relevant. And teachers should never be having conversations about this sick crap. And so parents need to be awake and aware. And thank you for raising awareness about this, Jane.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Let me bring in Rick Green. Rick, part of what I mentioned there was the fact that we're already seeing curriculum in schools. Can you validate that what I said is true?
Oh, 100%. And Gene, it's not as new as we think it is. We've been fighting this for decades, actually. They've been sneaking it in for a long time, not only in the classroom, but obviously in entertainment, as we're going to be talking about later. It started not as blatant as it is now, though. Now they have absolutely no shame whatsoever. And Alex's generation is facing it far worse than my generation. Happy birthday, by the way, Alex. Mine was last week too, but I've had a few more than you, unfortunately. It's just escalated generation after generation after generation. And now it's in your face. And not only is it in your face, it's in your face. We're not only going to indoctrinate your kids, we're going to groom your children. I used to always say indoctrination schools. Now they are indoctrination and grooming schools. And we're not going to let you even know what's happening in the classroom. So the fact that they've been trying to push parents out and not have transparency, I think that part has been blown up. Thank you, Terry McAuliffe in Virginia, for saying the quiet part out loud when he said that parents have no business being involved in their kids' education. The American people said, absolutely, that's not true. We're getting involved. But you nailed it with your opening. I mean, this is, as a Christian, you have a responsibility to parent your child and make these decisions. And Gene, I think we're living in a Romans 1 situation here where we stopped retaining the knowledge of God. We no longer thought it worthwhile, as it says in Romans 1, to retain God's knowledge. And then we were given over to a depraved mind, and we professed to be wise, but we've become fools. And now we're celebrating all of these evil, awful things, and our children are being sucked into that vortex. So it's time for us to wake up. We can change this. It's going to take a lot of work.
It is going to take a lot of work. Let me bring in finally Diamond and Silk. Glad you're here. Now, I have this feeling, Diamond and Silk, that your family, like my family, my dad, when we lived in the suburbs before we moved out rural, my dad went around to all the neighbors and said, if you see Gene doing something bad, you can spank him and send him home. And we'll, actually, he said, I think he said beat him. I'll beat him when he gets home. You can't say that nowadays. I'm alive. Everything was okay. But I mean, that's the way we grew up. I mean, we grew up with everybody having this general level of decency that we wanted to protect the children. If you're in a neighborhood, you wanted to protect the neighborhood children. You're always on the lookout for a wild car in the area or somebody there. Is that what you guys grew up with, or am I just seeing something wrong?
No, absolutely. And we also grew up with chastisement start at home, okay?
Yeah.
And so I say train a child in the way you want them to go. And when they get old, they won't depart from thee. It's not up to the school to train them. I have a niece that's about to go off to college, and her mother told her, listen, what I put in you, don't, for all of these years, don't allow somebody to take it out of you within minutes. So when we talk about our children being indoctrinated, I like what the gentleman said, they're being groomed, and that's child abuse. See, back in our day, if a teacher was sitting down and talking about sex, not sex education, but talking about sex, gender, being gay, that would be considered child abuse. Having books that shows all of these images of sexual activities, that will be child abuse. And when we talk about social media, how these people have bombarded us with subliminal messages, not only social media, but the media itself.
Yes.
Every program you turn on, every cartoon, it has something about that in it. Those are subliminal messagings, so we can accept this. Not only are they abusing the children, but they're also abusing us adults.
Yes.
They're abusing the parents because they want us to go along with the foolishness, the sickness, the nastiness of this all. And I believe that when this is said and done, all of these people should be arrested for child abuse and for parent abuse.
I agree. And you know, Rick, you really kind of mentioned something there just a minute ago that I'm glad you brought up. It's like the collective eyes of America woke up in Virginia when we had McAuliffe say that about you don't have any rights, you shouldn't be able to have any rights over your children's education and what you get taught. I mean, it was shocking, and he stuck by it, defiantly.
Yeah, and it hit on the fundamental issue here. The real question is, who has authority? Yeah. Do parents have the authority over the children? Is it our responsibility, or does the state own the kids? And you alluded to it in your opening. The whole concept of communism is that the state should own the kid because they want to raise them to believe in all of those things. So what Terry McAuliffe put his finger on accidentally was the principle at stake here. You know, I'm part of an organization called parentalrights.org. We've been fighting for constitutional amendments in every state to try to redefine for the American public to make it very clear, look, it's the parent that is in charge, not the state. You didn't have to make that argument in the founding era. Everybody understood that. Everybody knew that it was the parent's job, not the state. But more and more, as you said, we've turned our kids over to the government. As some people have said before, if you give your kids over to Caesar to raise them, don't be surprised they turn out to be Romans. And that's what we're seeing happen in the culture, and we can't give into it anymore.
Well, it's true. But let me talk to you about something that's happened. And I know Alex has got to go here in just a moment. So, Alex, I want you to respond to this video from Ron DeSantis, because all of this "Don't Say Gay" bill, all we're seeing and what's been happening with Disney. Look at what Governor DeSantis had to say.
For Disney to come out and put a statement and say that the bill should have never passed and that they are going to actively work to repeal it, I think, one, was fundamentally dishonest, but two, I think that crossed the line. This state is governed by the interests of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of California corporate executives. They do not run this state. They do not control this state.
You got to love this, Alex. When Governor DeSantis, he's a man. He stands up and said they don't run this state. But the bigger issue is what Disney is saying. Please speak to that.
Yeah, well, I'm blessed to live in the great state of Florida. I moved here 3 years ago, shortly after Ron DeSantis won, and he's done everything I hoped he could do. However, I hope he takes an even stronger approach to this bill. So this bill, this "Don't Say Gay" bill, I call it the "Don't Groom Your Children" bill. It doesn't go far enough. So the bill just says you can't teach sexual education to the entire classroom, but you can still talk to them one-on-one about that. I don't think that any creepy teacher should be having conversations with any child about sex, whether it's in public or if it's in a one-on-one conversation. It shouldn't happen at all. but I'm glad to see that Ron DeSantis is standing up. But I also want to encourage all of their viewers to boycott Disney. It's not cancel culture when you're canceling sick and twisted sexual predators who are so hell-bent on grooming your children. You can do it. It's okay. You have to cancel these people. That's the only type of cancel culture that I accept. But God bless Ron DeSantis for standing up for what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me read to you from DC Drink. You know, I'm just really impressed with you, Alex, to be a 25-year-old. I loved hearing what you're saying. Let me read this to you, and I'll get you to comment again about Alex. He said, my only complaint about Florida's new Don't Groom the Classroom bill is it stops at 3rd grade. Why not K through 12? Parents should be kept apprised of any and all sexual discussions between teachers and their children. I mean, that sounds like, well, duh, of course they should. They're the parents. But this is what we're fighting on a huge level across our nation. You represent, you know, I'm not picking on you because you're younger, but you're 25. Most people in your age group don't believe this way, it seems like. Or are we just seeing only the wild, crazy ones?
Yeah, I think you're only seeing the wild, crazy ones. The silent majority thinks all of this stuff is garbage and it's weird, and they're pushing back against it in a big fashion. And so Rogan's a good friend of mine. DC Drano is a great guy, and he calls it how it is. And he's exactly right. You shouldn't have these conversations. I think, you know, there's a conversation around banning trans from girls' sports, but we need to have a deeper conversation about the idea that children, you know, minors should not be able to get transition surgery to begin with. They should not be able to get puberty blockers. They should not be able to get testosterone injections. They should not be able to transition their gender as a child, because there's so many cases of children when they're adults that they regret the transition. And so it's negligence, it's parental abuse, and doctors, they are committing, I believe, medical malpractice. And you should not be allowed to do that. And so the conversation about banning that from sports isn't far enough. We need to make transitions from minors illegal. They should not be able to make decisions that is life-altering at such a young age. That's
great. All right, Alex, now you got to go. I want you to talk about your book. I just have the cover page, Winning the War on Social Media. Explain to us what that is.
Well, you know, it's the title is what it is. We are in a war. Social media companies have declared war on conservatives and on truth. President Trump is pushing back by creating a great new platform called True Social. I know David and Silk are on there. I'm on there. It's a wonderful platform, but it's not enough. And we talk about how, you know, all of these crazy things spread like wildfire online. You talked about that during your monologue. We actually have an entire chapter on education in the book and how social media impacts, you know, what's being taught in our classrooms. And so the war is real, but I'm not writing a book just to complain about it. I'm writing a book about how you can actually push back against this woke, you know, crap that's going on in the entire nation. We cannot allow these big tech companies to silence us, censor us any longer. Every elected official should read the book, because they, you know, I actually worked with a lot of policy experts and many members of Congress in writing the book. Lays out exactly the legislation needed to hold these big tech companies accountable. We interviewed people like Donald Trump Jr., Charlie Kirk, dozens and dozens of conservative voices for the book. And so, you know, I encourage each and every one of you to read it.
All right, thank you. Let's see, to get the book, alexxstrats.com, there's the website. Get the book. You know what, here's the thing, the best thing you said is, I'm not just complaining about the problem, I'm giving you solutions, and that's what we're all about. So, okay, grandma, granddad, mom, dad, there you go. There's the book you need to go get, xstrats.com. Alex, I want to get you back because we didn't even get into the January 6th stuff that happened with you. So I'd love to have you back, and we can talk about that. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jim. God bless you guys.
Bless you. All right, so Rick, let me come back to you before I go to my next Disney clip. In fact, I'm just going to play this one. And I'm going to play these clips, ladies and gentlemen, because you need to see the depths of what is happening at the Mouse with Disney. All right, so this is LaToya Raveneau. Watch.
It's like, I love Disney's content. I grew up watching, you know, all of the classics. They have been a huge, like, informative part of my life. But at the same time, like, I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you know, you hear whispers. Like, I'd heard things like, oh, you know, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little, like, sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of, like, you know, proud family Disney TVA. the showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and like our leadership over there has been so welcoming to like my like not at all secret gay agenda. And so like I feel like I felt like it was, I mean, like maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess like something must have happened in the last like they're turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that like momentum that I felt, like that sense of I don't have to be afraid to like, let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background. Like I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to like if you see anything queer in the show, I'm proud of it. But like I just was like, no one would stop me and no one was trying to.
Okay, so Rick, there was a bunch of gobbledygook yakking in that little clip, but I want to go back to what you said. She's an executive producer, okay? We got that at Disney, and she implemented her not at all secret gay agenda.
Yeah, it's no longer secret at all. And just real quick, I want to say congrats to Alex for being a bold voice of truth
Amen.
From that next generation. I love the example you put on the program tonight, and really excited about what he's doing. But yeah, you know, that's the whole point. It used to be in secret. They used to slip this stuff in. If you watch the history of Disney, it started with environmentalism. That was the first real liberal agenda that they started pushing into the programs to try to turn all the kids into again, Romans 1, loving the creature instead of the creator. And then it became very anti-American stuff. And I mean, it just kept growing. And until now, it is all the sexual revolution, all of these horrible, awful things that they're literally giving to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds, and they're not even apologizing for it. And it may be one of the clips you're going to have later. I hate to jump the gun on this, but even the entertainment president herself claims to have a pansexual child and a transgender child. How does a child know whether or not they're pansexual? These people are crazy, Gene, and they are trying to take this craziness and put it into the children of America. Not trying, they're succeeding in it. And Alex is 100% right. We need to stand up and say, no more Disney. We will not hand over our children to this entertainment that is indoctrinating and grooming them, nor will we take our kids to their parks. We will not give them any more of our money. They ruined Star Wars. Now they're trying to ruin our children, and we got to say no.
You got to say no. In fact, that was my next clip. Now, this is Carrie Burke, Disney corporate president. Watch.
I'm here as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me, because I have heard so much from so many of my colleagues over the course of the last couple of weeks in open forums and through emails and phone conversations. And I feel a responsibility to speak, not just for myself, but for them, to all of us. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, you know, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, oh, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters and not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me. And I can tell you, it's something that I feel perhaps had this moment not happened, I as a leader and me as my colleagues would not have focused on. And going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be. And I hope this is a moment where, shoot, the 50% of the tears, sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go backwards.
Okay. I don't know why. Now, this was a call that was leaked, ladies and gentlemen. It's all over the internet. You probably saw it. So this wasn't obviously supposed to be a public phone call, video call that was out there. Yet you're seeing these are the people that control what content Disney's putting out. So Diamond and Silk, I mean, You know, in both those clips, and I know you've got a comment, but I'm going to start it off. In both those clips, they talk about how important it was to get the groups of them to come together and how all the people came together and made them feel so supported. Therefore, they could go do what they're doing. Please speak to it.
Well, I believe that these people have been turned over to what we call a raper-bait mind.
Yes.
And the Bible speaks of that. And when we talk about transgender, why aren't research being done about people that don't want to be in the bodies that they were born in? They did research when Zika happened, when all of these other things happened, but no research. There's something seriously going on. Is it that the people don't want to be in their body, or they're being coerced not to be in their body?
That's right. Because, see, when I look at these sick people, they really have a mental problem, down to the parents that's going along with this. Back in the day, you used to go to jail for child molestation. Anytime you sit around and have an intimate conversation with a child and you begin to groom that child, that's child molestation. What I see happening right now is called child molestation. It's not just child abuse. This is child molestation, where they are grooming our children so that pedophilia activities can come into on board. When it comes down to gender, God is the one that assigned your gender. You're either XX or XY chromosome, period. I don't care how you slice it, dice it, flip it up, or rub it down. You either male or female. And back in the day, we had parents to teach us right from wrong. This mess, this foolishness that's going on today, it's all being implemented because we, the people, the Christians, the church, have become silent to this foolery. Everybody have scared people, bullied people into silence so that they can continue to push their agenda. The only way for this mess to stop is for us to stop supporting it. When it comes down to Disney, why are you taking your kids to a place where you know their ideology is demonic? Unless you demonic.
Well, there you go. Well said. Well said. Yeah. I want to just make sure I'm not going to show the other side. However, as Christians, and Diamond Silk, I'll come back to you on this, as believers, we're praying for your kids. We know these people are deceived. We know they're deceived. We know they're going to, so we're not attacking people. We're attacking the enemy's agenda that is so taken over their life and is pushing it onto us. This is the thing that because I have experience with this gay agenda, this transsexual agenda, and some members that are close to me, and it's always a selfish thing. It's always what you did to me, and you don't do this, and you don't do that, and you should have been this way, and you should have been that way. It's never what they say. Usually you need to include me, but it's really not. It is an agenda, and it is to change you and make you accept them, and not just accept them, but promote that lifestyle. Please, Diamond Silk.
Well, you're absolutely right. Promote the lifestyle. And my thing is, if you okay with your lifestyle, why do I have to promote it?
Yeah.
Why do you want me to agree with it?
Why do I have to approve it?
Yeah, I'm not asking you to agree with the fact that I'm a heterosexual. So don't ask me to agree with your lifestyle. My thing is, live your life the way you want to, but you have no right to push that on we the people that don't want that, and you have no right to push that on our young people where they don't know any better.
That's right.
They're gonna go along just because a teacher gave me this and told me that. You see what I'm saying? That's why you have to listen, parents.
Yeah.
And this is why they took and they broke up the nuclear family. This is why they don't want the nuclear family.
That's right.
See, with a mother or father, that mother gonna tell you what you are. You let me walk up in my house and my mother, Betty Lee, rest her soul, and I tell her I want to be another gender. She would have sat me down and told me I was a girl and probably gave me a pop. And you gonna act like a girl.
That's right.
That's how that would have been.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean that would have happened in my house, not the girl part, but the popping. Yeah, it would have. I can't even imagine that. All right, Rick, I'm going to go to you to this before I get myself in more trouble. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, don't forget what all these people are objecting to at Disney. This bill, as Alex pointed out, is only K through third grade. So what they're objecting to is it actually being against the law for a teacher, a grown adult, to groom a 5, 6, 7, and maybe 8-year-old child and be able to talk with them about sex, all kinds of sex, including anal sex, that they should be able to talk to a 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-old about that. That's what Disney's upset about? Are you kidding me? If that doesn't reveal for us their agenda and their mindset, and I want to apologize for calling them crazy earlier. I probably shouldn't have used that word. You could see in her clip, the president there, that she was emotional. She believes this stuff. It's a religion to them. They have been given over to the reprobate mind that was said earlier. That's right out of Romans 1. And then the Romans 1 ends also telling us that it's not just those who do these things, but those who take pleasure in or support or celebrate these things. And that's why they want us to do that. They want us to hand our kids over to them. And we've said for 20 years, they're coming for your kids because they told us they were coming for our kids. So this is extremely serious. It's very important. I'm so thankful you're willing to cover it, Gene, because frankly, too many people in conservative media and even Christian media aren't willing to touch this with a 10-foot pole. They don't want to talk about it because they know people are going to take us out of context tonight. They're going to say we said things that we didn't say. But for you being willing to take on this topic and say they're coming for our children, they're grooming our children, and as the lady said, they're abusing these children, thank you for the courage to take on the topic, and let's speak truth and let's save these kids from this.
Amen. Thanks for speaking as well, Rick. All right, so there is some good news, and we're going to hit that before we go to the break. This is from Axios. The Daily Wire is planning a significant push into kids' entertainment with what it says will be a minimum of $100 million investment over the next 3 years. This is in direct response to what Disney's doing. This is good news. Now, I'm going to shout out to all you Christian media organizations. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. You've been ignoring the children for years. It's time to get engaged. Don't just give them. When I grew up, media, I'm really going to date myself, media in Sunday school was a flannel graph. And if you don't know what it is, you'll have to Google it. It's flannel, and you'd stick little characters. Anyway, Google it, ask your mom. That's what I grew up with. But we've got to give something to kids that helps them and is entertaining. It's not the same as when you and I grew up. It is a different world out there. But parents, you've got to stand up. Christians, you've got to stand up. Churches, we've got to stand up and make plans to be involved with your kids. And I very rarely do we come out very strongly, and I'm speaking for myself here. Views expressed by Gene Bailey aren't necessarily those of this network. However, I believe they agree with me. Don't go to Disney. They got to change. They got to feel this somehow. And the only way they're going to feel this is in their pocketbook. So you need to see what they're doing. I hope your eyes have been opened. I know it's shocking, but we're winning. We just got to keep our foot on the gas. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, Hunter Biden's laptop, it just won't go away. We'll be right back.
This is Pastor George Pearsons. I'm inviting you to the Branson Victory Campaign. It's going to be held at Faith Life Church in Branson, Missouri, April the 7th through 9th. And I am so excited. Brother Copeland is going to be there. Jerry Savelle will be ministering. And we are going to have an outstanding time. Go to kcm.org/events for more information. It is going to be a tremendous meeting, and you cannot miss it. See you there.
I really do believe that we have got to act with urgency. Come to Tulsa. Let's make a statement to America. Let's express our rejection of what Satan is planning for our nation. When we do Flashpoint from the Mabee Center, there's going to be an event that you're going to regret if you weren't there live to see what God does. It's the beginning of something big.
Welcome back to the second half of Flashpoint. Listen, we want to get back into the interview. Before we do, I want to remind you what you just saw. Two really important meetings. The first one, April 21st and 22nd. Flashpoint Live at the Mabee Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We, as of right now, are over 7,500 people is registered. We still have a couple more thousand seats that will hold you. The event is free. And if you heard what Mario Murillo was saying right there, this is an urgent call, not just to Christians. Maybe you don't know what it means to be a Christian. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome to come here, because this is a time for us as Americans, as patriots, to come together and learn what is it that we need to be doing next? What is it that we need to see? And you know, there's something about the first time I was in a Promise Keepers meeting back in the 90s was in Los Angeles, California. And I was shocked to see 60,000 men in one place that all agreed that they were Christians. I'd never seen that in my life. That's the same thing with this. You're going to see thousands of people that believe, just like you do, that something's wrong with our nation and it's time for us to change it and be a part of it. This is not just the program that we're doing, but this is an event. You need to be in the room. Church leaders are coming from around the country, not to be on the speaking, but to be in the room, because they believe it's important for us to come together. It's time for us to come together and see this nation turn. Now, Mario Murillo is with us. There will be signs and wonders. And Friday night, there is his Living Proof Crusade. If you haven't been in the tent meeting, come to the Mabee Center, which just happens to be designed after a tent that Oral Roberts did. You're going to see signs and wonders. Bring your unsaved loved ones. You want to see a move of God, a real move of God without the fluff, and come April 21st and 22nd. Listen, what we do want you to do, it's an absolutely free, no-cost event. We would like for you to register. So what you need to do is go to govictory.com/FPLive and just let us know you're coming. That's all we ask, so that we can make sure we have room for everyone. So do that, share it. Get your friends together. We're hearing about people all over the country that are getting their own groups together to make a pilgrimage to Tulsa. It's going to be great. Rick, it's going to be a great meeting. But you know what else is important? For all you believers, then I'll go to you, Rick. I forgot to say this. For all you mature believers that you've been in church your whole life, and you've been going to church and going, what's going on in my country? What do I do next? How do I use the faith that I taught or was brought up and believed? What do I do with that next? That's why you need to be in the Branson Victory Campaign. April 7th through the 9th, right there with our founder, the founder of the Victory Channel, Kenneth Copeland, and Jerry Savelle will be there, as well as thousands others. You need to be there in that meeting. You can find out more information right there on the screen. We want to see you there. All right, so Rick, as we go into this, we talked about on Tuesday, we were mentioning the fact that Hunter's laptop just won't go away. I want to bring everybody up to speed on what happened. Watch this quick media, and I'll get back to you.
Biden's secret emails.
A really fishy story.
The Post claimed that the emails were found on a laptop computer that was brought to a repair shop in Delaware in the spring of 2019.
The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
Described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks.
All the hallmarks, rather.
All the hallmarks of a Russian
disinformation.
Russian disinformation.
Disinformation campaign.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
Yes, Russian disinformation machine. Wow, what difference a few months makes, Rick, and now you're not hearing about it much on the mainstream media, but we're going to talk about it. Rick, why is this suddenly back in the news?
Well, first of all, Gene, I just want to compliment what you were saying about your experience at Promise Keepers and why it's important to attend these events, because we need that fellowship, brother. We need to look around that arena and realize we're not alone. Sometimes we feel like Elijah. We say, God, I'm the only one left. And he's going, no, there's 7,000 that haven't bowed their knee to Baal. What he does at those events for us, and I had the same experience you described at Promise Keepers years ago. What he does for us is he says to us, by looking around the room, he says then to us, you are not alone. There are millions of Americans that are still with us on this. So anyway, I totally agree with what you were saying on that and encourage everybody to attend both of those events. In terms of the Hunter Biden thing, look, they can't suppress it any longer. They did a pretty good job, right? They suppressed it through the election. Most of the polling after the fact showed that if people had known about that, it would have been a massive shift in the election, even from the what I think is fake 81 million votes that supposedly Biden got. It would have even harder for them to create the scenario that they did. Now, though, so much is coming out from the laptop and from these emails. The question is not just what did Hunter Biden do, but what did Joe Biden know, and did Hunter Biden benefit from Joe Biden's position and power and connections, and then give a percentage of that to Joe? Now, even if he didn't give money to Joe Biden as a result of all these things that happen, if you are allowing someone in your family to benefit from your position in politics and you don't put a stop to that when these illegal things are happening, then you have to be held accountable. It may not be criminally accountable, but you have to be held at least politically accountable. And I just don't think they can keep a lid on it anymore. People want to know what actually happened. And now with the bank records and everything else being released, people are going to find out the truth. And we're talking millions and millions of dollars that was paid to the Biden family by foreign entities that are not our friends. Let's be clear about that.
No, they're not our friends. In fact, last Tuesday we talked about the media hasn't talked anything about it. Guess what? Wednesday, they're all talking about it. Watch this from ABC.
So there's a lot of issues that the Justice Department has looked into, including, of course, this laptop that on the right wing has featured a lot of stories about Hunter Biden. We know the FBI has possession of it and that they believe it is his laptop, that the contents of it are his.
Tonight reports that the Justice Department's investigation into the tax affairs of President Biden's son, Hunter, is intensifying. Sources telling ABC News that in recent weeks, a grand jury in Wilmington has heard from a parade of witnesses about payments Hunter Biden received while on the board of the Ukrainian gas company, Burisma, and also about how he paid his taxes in recent years. Biden served on the Burisma board when his father was vice president, something he's admitted was a mistake.
Did I make a mistake? Well, maybe in the grand scheme of things, yeah. But did I make a mistake based upon some unethical lapse? Absolutely not.
Federal prosecutors are also looking into how Hunter Biden reported money from business deals in China.
Diamond Silk, maybe he made a mistake.
Well, I'm sorry he's got to pay for the mistake. This ain't about intelligence. This is about part of Hunter Biden. This is his computer and the things that was on it that seems complicit. And I believe that Biden is compromised. Now, I also see this as a distraction because why all of a sudden is this coming out? So think about it. They say Biden is the president. I don't think he was elected. In my humble opinion, he was selected. He can pardon this guy. He can pardon his own son. And then what? Right. You see what I'm saying? Listen, they should have did something back in 2020 when the story came out. Instead of suppressing it, taking people down, calling them conspiracy theory. Shame on the media, shame on social media, and shame on everybody that hid this. And you know what? They should also be held accountable for lying to the public.
It's really past time for us to remove the rug. When you keep sweeping trash underneath the rug, it starts to peep out. It's a lot of trash peeping out from underneath the rug. So it's time for us to remove it, uncover it. We already know about Jim Crow Joe Biden. We already know about his son, Hunter Biden. We know about all of the money that's going back and forth throughout these foreign countries. And like you said, this is coming from the people that they say are our enemy, are so evil. Well, then why they taking money from them? So we already know this here, but what's going to be done about it? Because let me tell you, if this was President Donald J. Trump, all chains and fences would have broken loose by now on this here particular story.
Oh, yes, you're so right. Rick, they bring up a good point. This could be another distraction. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And by the way, to that last point, look, if this was one of the Trump kids, I mean, the world would be melting down. They would have melted down in 2020 over it if it had been a Trump kid instead of a Biden kid. But I do think that you have to look and say, okay, why now, right? Why all of a sudden are they willing to cover these stories? Two things stand out to me. Number one, they're only willing to talk about the money that he got from Ukraine, because right now in the American people's mind, Ukraine's the good guys, Russia's the bad guys, we're helping Ukraine. So if he got money from Ukraine, maybe it's not such a bad thing. So I think that's why they're doing that part of it. They're not talking about the millions that he got from China, that he got from Russia. I mean, when that stuff, if that comes out, then it's going to be a domino effect at that point. But it could be, the second thing I was thinking about as she said that, you know, maybe they're finally tired of Biden. Maybe they finally realize this guy is pulling the entire Democrat Party down. They're going to be destroyed in the 2022 elections. It's going to be a bloodbath. In state elections, local, if you're a Democrat, you have Biden wrapped around you in a very bad way right now. And so they know the price is going to be really high in November. Maybe they're finally ready. I mean, I don't know if the world is ready for a President Kamala Harris, but maybe they're finally decided that Joe Biden is just sinking them so bad that they got to do something, and that maybe this is the way to do it. That's conjecture on my part, but that was the first thing that came to mind as she was describing a distraction.
Right. All right, Diamond Silk. Is the world ready for Kamala Harris president?
Oh, absolutely not. Let me tell you something.
Tell 'em.
If they invoke the 25th Amendment and impeach Biden or whatever they're going to do, Kamala Harris, they'll be doing her within a few weeks. Nancy Pelosi, she won't be able to handle it. She's almost 100 years old.
Right.
Listen, no, absolutely not. Okay, these people, they can't. Kamala Harris can't even get on the world stage without using word salads and placating to words. She ain't saying nothing, but she got a lot of words in the salad. She can't even function on the world. She don't know anything about policy. She don't know anything about being a vice president. In a few weeks, they'll be invoking the 25th Amendment or trying to get her on out of there too.
But to quickly circle back to this deflection that's going on. See, we have high gas prices, empty shelves. What they want you to do is not to look at really the money that this gentleman, Rick, just described, where this money is coming in from here and from there. So we're going to put you out. We're going to put you out some crumbs for you to eat these little bitty crumbs, and hopefully that'll tie you over. Give you enough to keep you quiet, but not enough to make a difference. It's basically what they're doing. Then eventually this story will go away, and then something else will take its place, and then everybody will forget about Hunter's laptop.
Well, there's one story people won't forget, and that's north of our borders in Canada. There's one man that stands up and says what he believes with conviction like most pastors don't. I'm telling you, this guy is one of my heroes. He's out of jail and back on television tonight. Welcome back, Pastor Artur Pawlowski. Thank you for joining us. I want to hear what's the latest, other than the fact you're out of jail. Tell us what's happened with you.
Wow, what a journey. Unbelievable. I went through a roller coaster. I decided to leave my beard just for the Saturday church service so people can see me how I came out of 50 days in the middle of the fire. So I was snatched from my house by RCMP. RCMP are like your FBI. It was a sting operation, if you will. I was kidnapped, taken to the police station, and then to a max jail, a prison, where I was stripped naked. They have put me in an iron cage like a dog, where I have been threatened, where the guards were inciting inmates to beat me up, where I started a Bible study, led a number of inmates to Jesus Christ. I preached the gospel. I exposed the corruption. I received numerous threats. After 40 few days of craziness, when I had my entire unit in Calgary Remand Center, which is the third most ugliest, dangerous, the capital murder if it comes to jails in Canada, third worst jail after the Black Dolphin in Russia and the Texas jail right here in Calgary. Finally, I was transferred, kidnapped from my unit by a lie when they told me I have a visitor, and then the sheriffs were waiting for me, to a max pod in Edmonton when I was placed in a solitary confinement again after I just spent 30 days, 23, 24, 25 hours a day in segregation into a max pod when I was by myself. When I received a letter from the administration, it said that I'm dangerous to the staff and facility, and I was to spend there 45 days, possibly more. And then after the court hearing, I was transferred to a mental health unit where, crazy people were walking around. It was, I'm telling you, every day it was a surprise. Every day they were pulling something else. However, there were good news in a prison as well. As much as I didn't like the treatment, every day they would pull me out from my cell and I had to spend 3-4 hours on concrete. I mean, insanity. If you would say to me that this, how prisoners are being treated in a Western country, a democracy in quote like Canada, I would say you're a liar. I would not believe you at all. But it happened to me. I observed everything. Of course, the treatment I received, I became a political prisoner, extremely dangerous to the establishment, where the guards would come to the inmates and they would say, we'll give you extra day from your cell, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, if you beat him up. Someone needs to beat this pastor up. And the inmates said, no, we're not going to do it. We love him. I have been doing Bible studies. I have been doing church services there. Even Muslims were coming to me asking for prayers in their cells. So I turned the entire unit into a church. When they saw that they would not succeed in beating me up using the hands of the inmates because I was so popular there, when I was coming out of my treatment on concrete, when I walked into my unit, the inmates were cheering, "Free Pastor Art, free Pastor Art." And the guard says, be quiet, or put you in segregation. And they would not stop, "Free Pastor Art." So they realized they're not going to win this fight. So they took me to Edmonton, to the max, and then to the mental unit. So every single day, I didn't know who is going to stop me. I didn't know who is going to attack me. I didn't know what is going to happen to me. I call it 50 days in the middle of the fire. And truly, this was the fire of Nebuchadnezzar, because I dared to oppose the golden image. I refused to bow like everybody else, like my colleagues. So many thousands of my colleagues have bowed to the golden image. I refused to bow. So that was the treatment I received. The good news out of the story is that I now understand what God wanted me to do. First of all, he says that we are to take care of the orphans, the widows, and the poor. But also he says, visit the prisoners. You see, I had a very limited knowledge what is really happening in prison. Now I know how much those boys are hurting. I know the level of corruption. I know what is happening there because I was one of them and it happened to me. Yesterday, I cried for my friends over there. And yes, some of them are criminals. Some of them did terrible things. But you see, they have been already punished by the justice system or so-called justice system. They don't need additional punishment by the administration. They don't need additional punishment by the so-called peace officers or correctional officers. We have not received anything, not checker, not chess. We were not able to do anything. Those boys are left to roam and do nothing, wasting their lives. So I have decided I'm going to expose this corruption again, and I'm going to come with a book. I already, I spent 50 days writing a book in jail every single day. So I will spend a couple more months to polishing it and, edit the whole thing and put it on a computer because, of course, I was writing down. Most of the time I was writing down on their documents. Then later, finally, they gave me my glasses and a piece of paper. So it has been very interesting, I'm telling you. What a roller coaster.
Yeah, it has been a roller coaster. And all of this, Rick, was because he wouldn't close his church. In fact,
that's what I was sitting here thinking about. As he's describing it, I was thinking, people need to know what he did. He opened his church and he said no to the Gestapo coming in and trying to stop him. And I was trying to think, are you Elijah, Pastor Art? Are you Paul? Are you Daniel? And then I thought, no, you're like MLK. The letter from the Birmingham jail, that book that you wrote on whatever you were able to get your hands on and write, God is going to use that to wake up a nation. God is going to use that to reform the very things that you're talking about. God bless you, brother. Thank you for being a champion. I am righteously angry for what they have done to you, but I also am happy about what God's going to do with it.
Yeah, let's put up his website right there real quick for just a couple minutes. So, Pastor Artur, I want to make sure you know we want to follow you. When this book is ready, please come back on, let us know about it. We want to tell all the viewers here in America, as well as those of our viewers in Canada and around the world, to keep up with you. And thank you so much for keeping us involved with what you're doing. Diamond and Silk, this guy's a real hero, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, a warrior. Yeah. Somebody that will not back down. And when we look at the churches here in the United States, some of these churches have gone woke. They're being paid to push an agenda. Yeah. So when I see this pastor standing up for what's right, I love it.
Can I just say that this pastor was created for such a time as this? Now he can turn his mess into a message and his test into a testimony.
Yeah, amen. All right, Pastor Art, I'll give you 1 minute to wrap up. Final thoughts.
I just want to say thank you so much, Americans. I mean, through all this ordeal, there were three things that were holding me sane throughout. Every single day, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Of course, God was the number one. Without him, I don't know how prisoners can survive another minute, another hour, another day. Of course, my wife and my family, every single day that I could talk to my wife, what a hero, what an amazing woman, and my son and my brother and the whole family, my parents. But I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for prayer. I could feel the prayer. I could feel that there were so many thousands of people standing with me. So I want to thank you for being there with me, because I felt it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. All right, Rick, I'll give you 30 seconds. Final thoughts.
Just what a blessing to be on here tonight, to hear so much wisdom shared. I hope that people that are watching tonight, we had some stories early on that are disturbing, and you should be righteously angry about what they're trying to do to the children in America. But have hope, have joy. No, I love the way that Diamond and Silk put it. He can take this mess and give us a message, and that's exactly what's happening. Get involved. You can prevent what happened to Pastor Art from happening to pastors in the United States if you'll just live out your biblical citizenship.
That's right. And, and thinking back on the beginning of the program, Pastor Art, you weren't here for that, but we were talking about boycotting Disney, and I'm thinking, what? That's like nothing compared to what you just went through, having gone, you got a revolving door in prison. They keep trying to throw you back in. So thank you for standing up and being strong. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, in our final seconds, I want to remind you, if you haven't become a part of the Flashpoint Army, sign up. We have over 90,000 patriots just like you together. We want you to sign up and be a part. Check out everything on the website. Of course, all the products and stuff, the events coming up. Better get to Tulsa. I'm telling you, God's going to do some amazing things. Thank you, Diamond and Silk and Pastor Art, and of course, Alex Brusewitz for being on. We're going to have a great show next week. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay tuned to the Victory Channel. Not only is this about faith, but this is about maturing you in your walk with God. This is what we're here for, to mature you. Thank you, Brother Copeland, George, and Terry Pearsons for what you do here, keeping us in the world.